Hi, this channel is about things that are not in the manual. And while the procedure for aligning the height of the crank gear to the height of the cam gear is in the manual, I ran into some things that were not in the manual. The procedure is basically, put a straight edge across here and then check it. And what I did was I checked it with some feeler gauges, and my feeler gauge Mitutoyo, which is a high quality, the smallest one is 15 10,000ths. So what I did was if it was within 15 10,000ths, I called it good enough because I can't tell if it's any smaller than that. What I found in this case was I had a problem with both the choice of this adjustable cam gear, the original cam gear, and the replacement Roadster Factory cam gear. I found a little variation in this, and we'll talk about that. I found that there was no real variation between the Roadster Factory crank gear and the original cam gear. I did find an interesting problem with the shim, which we'll talk about, how to hold this gear down consistently so that you get a clean measurement. So anyway, if you learn something or if you know something about this, let me know in the comments. I appreciate it when you subscribe or like the video. It helps me to be motivated to make more. So let's get started with the original setup that I had, which showed a problem, and where we go from there. So I tried every combination, and I was getting wacky results all over the place. I measured it over and over, and I got different results each time. And I thought, well, maybe the problem is in that shim under the crank gear. Maybe the crank gear is not being held down firmly enough to give me an accurate measurement. Given the result I had, I decided to go ahead and pull this shim off, and I'm going to replace it with another 4,000 shim that I got from the Roadster Factory. This one is really beat up, and this is even more beat up because I had to pull it off over the woodruff key here. So what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to just cut a little channel in the new one with the Dremel, so it'll slide over there, and replace this and see if this doesn't get rid of some of that 2,000ths gap. So to test it, I cut a notch in it with the Dremel, and that seems to work just fine. So using this as a template, I'll go ahead and cut the new one. The tool I used is one of these fiber Dremel wheels. Just slot, and then just kind of back and forth like this. I did also use it to take the burr off. There we go. New shim. So I took the old oil seal sleeve spacer and put it on there, and I had to knock it down with a brass punch to get it the last of the way, and that drove that gear down. Okay, now we're going to check the Roadster Factory crank gear, the Roadster Factory cam gear, the brand new 4,000 shim, and I've got it held down tightly with that with the old oil seal shim. And I can't get 15 10,000ths under there. Can't get it on the back, can't get it there. So that's less than 15 10,000ths. So now verifying that there's no space in there, okay, which there was before. Do this. We're going to go 15 10,000ths. Nothing. Does not go. Now we're going to try the adjustable cam gear and see. We've got 15 10,000ths. Oh, 15 10,000ths goes under. 2,000ths goes under. 3,000ths is a little tight. And 4,000ths. 4,000ths does not go under. So it's about 2 to 3,000ths. So what this is telling me is that if I were to use this one, I'm going to have to bring this down 2,000ths, and I don't know how I'm going to do that because you can only buy these shims in 4 and 6,000ths thicknesses. I would have to maybe grind 2,000ths off the back of this gear if I want to use this one. So I think what I'll do is I'll try putting together the try putting it together with the Roadster Factory non-adjustable gear and see if I can get it aligned properly without all this. If I can, then I'll just take this one off and sell it. If I can't, then I'll have to decide from there. So the question now is, why is there a 4,000ths or 3,000ths gap on this one and not on this one and this one? So I figured the only thing that could be explaining that is that maybe the dimensions of this are off. And so what I did was I measured all 3 of these, and I measured both the overall width here, and I measured the inset from between here and here. And I used, to do the inset, I used my digital calipers, and I measured it multiple times, and I found an interesting result. And I measured between here and the aluminum, by the way, not between here and the black, because there's about 1,000th difference here. I did take this apart to see if it was dirty or there's a film in there or something that was causing this to sit funny, but there wasn't. So let's call the dimension of this inset A, and let's call the dimension of the overall dimension of the gear B. So what did we find? We found that for the Roadster Factory cam gear, we found that the A dimension, which is the inset, the A dimension was 0.247 minus the thickness of my ruler. For the OEM cam gear, we found that the A dimension, the inset, was 0.248 minus the thickness of the ruler. And for the adjustable gear, we found that the A dimension was 2.247 minus the thickness of the ruler. So that's within the accuracy of my digital caliper. Maybe it was right on the edge. Maybe it's 0.2475 or something, and it just read differently. Or the OEM, perhaps there's some dirt on here, or maybe they're both off a little bit. The B dimension is where we have our difference. For the Roadster Factory, we have 0.609. For the OEM, we have 0.609. For the adjustable one, we have 0.603. So that's going to cause a problem when we put our scale on here. If this thickness is different, that's going to cause a problem. And you can see that the teeth are also a different thickness than the OEM. Let's see if I can put these side by side and if you can see that. The teeth are narrower on this one than on that one. It's hard to see, I know. But anyway, this would explain why we're getting the different, why on this one we're getting the feeler gauge can go under. If this is thinner, if this isn't as thick, then the feeler gauge is going to go under. That's going to make calculating this, I'm going to have to calculate this rather than just rely on the feeler gauge if I'm going to use this one. So lessons learned here were use a new shim, make sure all the surfaces are clean, and knock it down and hold it really, hold this gear down really tight, and perhaps your old oil sleeve can do that for you. And if you buy this adjustable gear, you're going to have to make a custom shim, and you're going to have to do some creative measuring to get it aligned correctly. In any case, if you enjoyed this, please like it, subscribe. It encourages me to do more, and I'll see you next time.